This week, Suspicious Nights brings you one of the most spine-chilling detective stories of all time, The Red-Headed League by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle created the immortal character of Sherlock Holmes, probably one of the most beloved fictional characters ever created. Sherlock Holmes first appeared in Beaton's Christmas Annual in 1887. Sherlock Holmes has appeared in total of 56 short stories and 4 novels. The Red-Headed League. I had called upon my friend, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, one day in the autumn of last year, and found him in deep conversation with a stout, florid-faced elderly gentleman with fiery red hair. With an apology for my intrusion, I was about to withdraw when Holmes pulled me abruptly into the room and closed the door. "You could not possibly come at a greater time, Watson," he said cordially. "I was afraid that you were engaged." "So I am, very much so." "Then I can wait in the next room." "Not at all. This gentleman, Mr. Wilson, has been my partner and helper in many of my most successful cases, and I have no doubt that he will be of the utmost use to me in yours also." The stout gentleman half rose from his chair and gave a bob of greeting, with a quick little questioning glance from his small, fat, encircling eyes. "Try the settee," said Holmes, relapsing into the armchair and putting his fingertips together, as was his custom when in judicial moods. "I know, my dear Watson, that you share my love for all that is bizarre and outside the conventions and humdrum routine of everyday life. You have shown your relish for it by the enthusiasm which has prompted you to chronicle, and, if you'll excuse me by saying so, somewhat to embellish many of my own little adventures." "Your cases have indeed been one of the greatest interest to me," I observed. "You will remember that I remarked the other day, just before we went into the simple problem presented by Miss Mary Sutherland, that for strange effects and extraordinary combinations we must go to life itself, which is always far more daring than any effort of the imagination. A proposition which I took the liberty of doubting. You did, doctor, but none the less you must come round my view, for otherwise I shall keep on piling fact upon fact on you until your reason breaks down under them and acknowledges me to be right. Now, Mr. Jabez Wilson here has been good enough to call upon me this morning and to begin a narrative which promises to be one of the most singular which I have listened to for some time. You have heard me remark that the strangest and the most unique things are often connected not with the larger but with the smaller crimes, and occasionally indeed where there is room for doubt whether any positive crime has been committed. As far as I have heard it impossible for me to say whether the present case is an instance of crime or not, but the course of events is certainly among the most singular that I have ever listened to. Perhaps, Mr. Wilson, you would be kind enough to recommence your narrative. I ask you not merely because my friend Dr. Watson has not heard the opening part, but also because of the peculiar nature of the story that makes me anxious to have every possible detail from your lips. As a rule, when I have heard some slight indication of the course of events, I am able to guide myself by the thousands of other similar cases which occur to my memory." The portly client puffed out his chest with an appearance of some little pride and pulled a dirty wrinkled paper from the inside of his greatcoat. As he glanced down the advertisement column with his head thrust forward and the paper flattened out upon his knee, I took a good look at the man and endeavored, for the fashion of my companion, to read the indications which might be presented by his dress or appearance. I did not gain very much, however, by my inspection. Our visitor bore every mark of being an average commonplace British tradesman, obese, pompous, and slow. He wore rather baggy grey shepherd's check trousers, a not over-clean black frock coat unbuttoned in the front, and drab waistcoat with a heavy brassy Albert chain and a square pierced bit of metal dangling down as an ornament. A frayed top hat and a faded green overcoat with a wrinkled velvet collar lay upon the chair beside him. Although, look as I would, there was nothing remarkable about the man saving his blazing red head and the expression of extreme chagrin and discontent upon his features. Sherlock Holmes' quick eye took in my occupation, and he shook his head with a smile, and he noticed my questioning glances. Beyond the obvious facts that he has at some time done manual labor, and that he takes snuff, that he is Freemason, and that he has been in China, and that he has done a considerable amount of writing lately. I can deduce something else. Mr. Jabez Wilson started up in his chair with his forefinger down on paper, but his eyes upon my companion. How in the name of good fortune did you know all that, Mr. Holmes? He asked. How did you know, for example, that I did manual labor? It's true, as gospel, for I began as ship's carpenter. Your hands, my dear sir. Your right hand is quite a size larger than your left. You have walked with it, and the muscles are more developed. Oh, will the snuff and the Freemasonry? I won't insult your intelligence by telling you how I read that, especially as rather against the strict rules of your order. You use an arc and compass breastpin. Ah, of course, I forgot that. But what the writing? What else can be indicated by the right cuff so very shiny for 5 inches and the left one with the smooth patch near the elbow where you rest upon the desk? Well, but China? The fish that you tattooed immediately above your right wrist could only have been done in China. I have a small study of tattoo marks and have been contributed to literature of the subject. That trick of staining the fish scales of a delicate pink is quite peculiar to China. When in addition I see a Chinese coin hanging from your watch chain, the matter becomes even more simple. Mr. Jabez Wilson laughed heavily. Ha ha ha! Well, I never, said he. I thought at beginning that you have done something clever, but I see there was nothing in it, after all. I begin to think, Watson, said Holmes, that I make a mistake in explaining. Omne ignotum pro magnifico, you know, and my poor little reputation, such as it is, will suffer shipwreck if I am so candid. Can you not find the advertisement, Mr. Wilson? Yes, I've got it now, he answered with a thick red finger planted halfway down the column. Here it is. This is what began it all. You just read it for yourself, sir. I took the paper and read as follows. To Red-Headed League. On account of the bequest of the late Isaiah Hopkins of Lebanon, Pennsylvania, USA, there is now another vacancy open which entitles a member of the league to a salary of £4 a week for purely nominal services. All red-headed men who are sound in body and mind and above the age of 21 years are eligible. Apply in person on Monday at 11 o'clock to the Duncan Ross at the offices of the league, 7 Pope's Court, Fleet Street. What on earth does that mean? I ejaculated after I had read twice over the extraordinary announcement. Holmes chuckled and wriggled in his chair as it was his habit when in high spirits. It is little off of the beaten track, isn't it? Said he. And now, Mr. Wilson, off you go at scratch and tell us all about yourself, your household, and the effect which this advertisement had upon your fortunes. You will make a note, Doctor, of the paper and the date. It is the Morning Chronicle of 27th April 1890, just 2 months ago. Very good. Now, Mr. Wilson? Well, it is just as I have been telling you, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, said Jabez Wilson, mopping his forehead. I have a small pawnbroker's business at Coburg Square near the city. It is not a very large affair, and of late years it has not done more than just giving me a living. I used to be able to keep 2 assistants, but now I keep only 1. I would have a job to pay him, but that he is willing to come for half the wages so as to learn the business. What is the name of the obliging youth? Asked Sherlock Holmes. His name is Vincent Spaulding, and he is not such a youth either. It's hard to say his age. I should not wish a smarter assistant, Mr. Holmes, and now I know very well he could better himself and earn twice what I am able to give him. But after all, if he is satisfied, why should I put ideas in his head?